Hi, welcome to the Popular Podcast. My name is Philip. Before we do anything else, let's check the mailbag. Greg O. writes, based on your recommendation, I recently watched Sparkle Kingdom with my son. I know it's ultimately my responsibility to filter what my child watches, but I still thought I'd share that this one was a little much for my 7-year-old. The parts with the grape-eyed mudwalkers were especially disturbing for him. He even said he had a nightmare about the scene where the mudwalkers tickle the prince's feet until he laughs so hard his tongue oozes out onto the floor. Just thought I'd share so maybe a few other parents will heed my warning and check into this movie a little more before letting their younger kids watch it. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, Sparkle Kingdom does have some pretty creepy elements in it. Personally, I think it's good to have some milestone creep-outs as a young viewer, though. And maybe this will be one of his. I mean, it might shape his fears for the rest of his life, but it also might be a gateway to bond with some future friend who also had the same frightened experience. Within reason, it's fun to have a few memories of things that disturbed you when you first watched them as a little kid. I still get scared at the sound of sea shanties and carrots being munched on, and I know you know what movie implanted that fear, because I know I'm not alone on that one. Maybe you can revisit Sparkle Kingdom in a few years. Your son will probably see the weird comedy of it, rather than taking its surreal visuals so literally. Alright, Simon R. has a real call to action in this one. He writes, the digital age is deteriorating our minds, our bodies, and nearly every way of life. For instance, with blockbuster season in full swing, I'm mourning the loss of the decades-old tradition of waiting in line to see the next big movie. Now it's just swipe, click, email me my receipt, and you're just another zombie walking into the theater. Where's the communal experience of queuing up in sweltering heat with all of your other cinephile comrades, all chomping at the bit to make it into the first or second screening? You're missing out on half of the shared experience of moviegoing. I mean, we're not even blockbusting anymore. I'd like to officially invite all my fellow movie lovers to decry online ticketing systems this summer and join me in waiting outside your local cinema in order to buy tickets like the good old days. It's really not that bad. You can bring a tent, chairs, camp stove, MREs, playing cards, urine sacks. I mean, it's basically like glamping. Anyway, maybe I'll see you out there on a Thursday night sometime soon, where I'll surely be the first one to get my ticket before Friday's big opening night. See you at the movies. Hey Simon, thanks for the invitation. I hope you get your ticket on your terms. Just a heads up though, a lot of movies tend to start showing on Thursdays now, so you might want to push your glamping start time up a day. And you can usually reserve tickets at least a couple of weeks in advance, so you might want to keep that in mind. Or you can pre-order your ticket at the box office if you're still set on doing it in person. You probably don't need to wait in any significant lines at all, unless you're at like a Hollywood premiere and there's a few lottery spots or something like that. I'm not really sure. Either way, good luck. Well, spring was sprung several weeks ago now, and it's really crashing back down on us in a flurry of sunshine, pollen, and for some, a deep, unquenchable melancholy. Here are a few ideas to make the most of spring before it turns into a blistering summer, where every day is one big game of the ground is lava. Before spring is over, try getting a new plant. Maybe something that grows food, or maybe something that just looks good enough to eat. Drop a potato in the ground. Spit some watermelon seeds into a crack in the sidewalk. Take some fertile soil in a bulb, put the soil in a small terracotta pot, and put the bulb in that lamp you've been meaning to get working again. Then plant some herbs in the pot. Whatever you decide, here's the thing you should keep in mind. Whatever you plant will likely die. It's okay. Maybe you'll get lucky. Plants are really a numbers game. If you ever meet someone who claims to have a green thumb, maybe they do. Maybe their home is a verdant paradise. But remember this. For every Eden, there's a snake in that grass, and at some point, everyone gets a craving for fruit. Next up, make sure you're getting outside. I don't care why, but when you're lathering on the sunscreen, and you are wearing sunscreen, right? Good. When you're applying the sunscreen to your face, don't forget about your eyelids. They're an important part of your face's skin, and they're especially susceptible to UV damage. Speaking of eyelids, they're also a common spot for skin tags to form. If you do find one of those little punching bags hanging off of a lid, don't freak out, especially if it doesn't feel irritated. Just have a dermatologist take a look at it when you get a chance. And finally, go fly a kite. It's the perfect time of year for it. Word of warning though, if you're an adult male who plans on flying a kite solo, try getting one made up of neutral colors or designs, maybe not one with any cartoon or storybook characters on it. I only say this because kite flying can be sort of like the windowless van of outdoor activities. On its own, there's nothing really wrong with it, but it can make people a little uneasy. Okay, enjoy the rest of spring, everyone. Dear Diarrhea, you know that I try to limit the intake of the occasional soft drink to the weekend only, but I was in a bit of a shame spiral and had a moment of weakness at work today. Okay, not really. I was just feeling a little thirsty and a lot indulgent. I went to the vending machine and first noticed it was a brand new machine. When did this happen? I also noticed this machine seemed to actually be working. I'm used to the machine on the floor I work being out of service most of the time. I was feeling good about this. I swiped in my payment, made my selection, and watched the robotic arm dutifully retrieve my drink and drop it into the retrieval port. I grabbed the can, and it was warm. Such a disappointment, and a real psychological fake-out. I felt especially bad for my hand, which was expecting an ice-cold drink coated in a chilly condensation glaze, but instead got a tepid metal cylinder. This is what I get for trying to have a soda in the middle of the week. The universe saw fit to teach me an important lesson about indulgence, entitlement, and processed sugar. Thanks, I guess. Until next time, Diarrhea, your friend, Philip. Before we wrap things up, it's time for household tips. This tip takes us a little bit outside the household. I mentioned plants earlier, remember? Well, speaking of plants, if you've ever had to dig up a patch of land, or a garden, or a flower bed, you know that digging into the dirt can turn up all sorts of surprises. Worms, rocks, shards of pottery from an ancient civilization. You might also come across roots. That's what happened in our flower bed. We found roots from old plants that had been removed some time ago. These were sturdy shrub roots, too, difficult to dig past and plant around. While it didn't seem worth it to try to remove every last trace of them, it was necessary to break some of them up. Breaking them up with a shovel or trowel proved difficult, so we resorted to using a bypass pruner to cut through some of the thickest, most belligerent ones. Why not? We needed to prune these old roots, and what are roots if not underground sticks? So here's the tip. If you need some assistance breaking up roots, use pruners, shears, or even loppers if they'll get the job done. Bonus tip. If you want to make the root trimming even more exciting, pretend you're disarming a bomb with each cut. Tell yourself that if you don't cut the right root, then you'll blow a city block wide open, and you haven't received confirmation from the authorities yet that the area has been cleared of all civilians. With your adrenaline flying and your heartbeat pounding in your ears, you'll be reminded that there's nothing like the threat of death to make you feel alive. Okay, that's all for another Pop Filler. Thanks for listening, and remember, you'll be fine.